bring me to Illuminati in today's media, right? Like, we can't really talk about the Illuminati and try and get a hold on like what this thing was without talking about what it isn't or what people think it is. You know, historically, like, again, this was a blip, lasted 10 years on our calendar, but yet it still hangs on, you know, and we see things in, you know, cartoons and music, all kinds of conspiracy theory sites. I mean, it's all extremely entertaining and fun stuff to think about, but you know, it's not real. But I really think that one of the amazing things that they did do is this flair for putting together this system of secrecy and spying back and forth between the initiates and the superiors, and you know, they created this flair and drama and excitement about joining the society that, you know, it's just can't get rid of it. You know, it even pokes its head up during the American Revolution. There's, you know, Jefferson's talking about Illuminism being a huge threat and it doesn't exist. And in the 50s, the Red Scare, people were talking about the Illuminati again, and that starts to come up all of a sudden. You know, and here we are again. And, you know, it's like everybody's like, you know, all right, Jay-Z's a 99th degree of luminous, whatever. You know.
Don't forget Dan Brown.
Yeah, well, Dan Brown, for sure. I mean, he just latched onto a whole bunch of stuff and made a great story, but it was fictional. You know, like there's little facts and whatnot here out there, but it's entertainment. You know, it's as entertaining as a national treasure, but it didn't really exist. So anyway, Andrew.
Don't forget Umberto Eco as well.
Well, of course,
yeah.
Foucault's pendulum, also great.
I did want to ask a question, though. We've heard a lot of what the Illuminati are not. What about some of the things they did stand for that they brought themselves that freed?
So I'll repeat, Andrew's question is, what did they stand for? What was the Illuminati standing for? And answer, you know, they were a small idealistic Republican movement in Bavaria. Their goals were to oppose superstition, obscurantism, religious influence over public life, and abuses of state power. The order of the day, they wrote in their statutes, was to put an end to the machinations of the purveyors of injustice, to control them without dominating them. Okay? In many ways, its inception was really an idea that by being moral, ethical, and religious men, they could create change in the political system of the day. It sounds a little familiar in a way.
They were also, they were incredibly progressive values.
Yes.
And that's why the church crushed them.
What was that?
They were incredibly progressive values, and that's why the church crushed them. I mean, they wanted these revolutionary ideas of things like women's suffrage, public education system, you know,
Right.
and the people of the time weren't having it. And still to this day, I mean, I could see, you know, some very, call it conservative, if you will, kind of like institutions opposed to things like that. They also let in atheists. You know, that was something that's very stark difference to, you know, their free Masonic members. But they let in atheists, they let in women, you know, and they were for a lot of things that we now take for granted, that we see as cornerstones of American society. But back then, these were incredibly revolutionary ideas and incredibly progressive ideas.
Yeah, I mean, they were embodying all the Enlightenment ideals, and it was right at the tip of the iceberg when that, you know, essentially bore forth Western democracy. You know, all came out of this era. Did they influence it directly? I don't know. I will say, and I'll touch on this in a bit, that the historical record is a little bit vague on the atheistic aspect and whether they let women in or not, and there's a little proof that that might have been a slanderous campaign against them.
Oh, really?
But, you know, history is written by the victors, so it's hard to know for sure.
You know, they had a Weishaupt was a Christian, and if you read his writings, you can certainly confirm that in your own mind. However, he embraced a form of Christianity that was very, very non-conventional, and in certain periods of time, it would have been considered heretical. He embraced a docetic form of Christianity, and some of the higher mystery degrees that ultimately would be conferred upon people were docetic in nature. This is very, very related to Gnosticism and something that made the Roman Catholic Church very uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And it also, because what it did, it showed just how immaterialistic the Illuminati really was. They get accused of being the organization that runs the world. Well, the fact is, they resist materialism. They believe in things that could not be seen. They believed that Christ was somebody who did not appear physically, but in some sort of spiritual way, walked the earth. They were very similar to I don't know if you ever heard of Eckhart Hausen, who wrote The Cloud on the Sanctuary, where there was a physical church and there was a spiritual church that nobody knew who ran it. And the real leaders of the church were spiritual beings. You can even say the Golden Dawn does the same thing in this third order.
Yeah, I would say, whether they let atheists in or not. I mean, it's really easy to read through his writings and the literal translations and be like, oh, he's a secular humanist, but then you read a little bit more and it's like he's a devout Christian, and the degrees, as Merrick pointed out.
They were atheists. They were some form of Christianity that were considered heretical.
Right, but it's dripping in moralism and Christian symbolism. I mean, when you get to the lectures again are like 80% of the degrees. The degrees go like that, and then it's like these huge lectures. Hard to avoid the Christian influence when you really dig deeper in there. But George, yes.
I think when you dissect the name of the organization, Illuminati, it goes to the heart of what an initiate is supposed to be, which is illuminated. And that illuminated one has the physical illumination of changing himself and bettering society that Freemasonry is based on, and the spiritual side, taking the spiritual self to a next realm to be illuminated and in the presence of God. So
yeah, and it's interesting, and we'll get into the actual degrees a little bit. And I'd like to open up at the end a little bit of a topic, or was Weishaupt a mystic? I have some interesting points about that, but yes.
The Knights Templar were connected to the church, but these people were totally independent of the church?
Correct. Weishaupt was a professor at a Jesuit university, was not a Jesuit, was a Christian. As Merrick mentioned, we do find out through his degrees his beliefs about Christianity are a bit unusual for the time, but no, they were not necessarily connected in any legitimate way or specific way to the church. To sort of wrap up on common misconceptions, and we see symbols, I mean, we talk about the dollar bill. It's a really favorite of the, conspiracy theorists. Like, no, that's an Illuminati seal. And I would say that 99% of them have never seen this, which is actually from the Minerval degree about unfinished pyramid. But, the idea of an unfinished building, an unfinished pyramid, this is drawing from stuff that goes way back. And this illustration is lifted directly from a book. The Warren Explorer drew a picture of Khufu's pyramid. And, they literally just picked it up and added some bricks on the bottom. So everything's coming from this similar Enlightenment era wellspring, and it's no surprise that there'd be overlap in the symbolism. But it doesn't mean causality. Just because there's some correlation happening here. Same thing everybody talks about Bohemian Grove, and they've got the owl of Minerva, and they've got weird rites they do in the forest, and here we got Illuminati, we've got the owl in the book. And, yeah, it's similar, but these guys didn't invent the idea of the owl symbolizing wisdom any more than they did. They pulled from the Minerval owl that existed centuries before that.
it's a symbol of Athena, the
Correct.
symbol of wisdom.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Minerva, Athena, exactly, symbol of knowledge and wisdom. Yes, Jerry.
And the seal on the back of the bill is, it seems to me, pretty well established that its roots in this kind of teaching are straight out of Masonry, given the number of prominent Masons that were very prominent in the American Revolution and in the founding of the country.
Could be, could be. You know, I'm not sure we'll ever know. You know, it's like we can speculate on that,
But that all-seeing eye kind of thing, that appears in so many places,
Very
going back
early Christian
literally
churches
several
and-
millennia.
absolutely. And
The
I think
map symbol goes back way further than organized Freemasonry.
exactly,
Right.
and that's sort of my point. Is whoever's claimed the use of a symbol only has power that you put into it, right? A symbol is what you say it means, and more importantly, it means what it means to you. But everybody at this time, especially in the 1700s, everybody's thinking the same stuff: revolution and ideals and progressivism and reform. I mean, the church is being reformed, the government's being reformed. Like Europe is on fire with new ideas. And is it strange that they pull from similar iconography? Yes.
It was funny through my research of the dollar bill. The origination of that didn't come until Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which was also a 32nd degree. And I mean, that's not too long ago that they even adapted the currency to have that symbolism.
Yeah.
But the seal, I think, pre-existed it being on the currency.
The seal existed, but it came on currency before that. And
Right.
Under God was added. I mean, a lot of stuff happened in the 40s through 60s with regard to that. But my goal here again is, I'd sort of, everybody here is probably some knowledge about this. I was hoping we'd get some interested candidates that aren't Masons or in other groups. And I see a lot of them come in here on our great Saturdays, and they get the wrong idea. They don't know what they're talking about, and you don't want to shut them down, but it's sort of illustrate that these coincidences don't imply a causal, actual effect.